We have been reading A Course in Miracles, and today we are reading from chapter 12. Chapter 12 is the Holy Spirit's curriculum. This is section 3, the investment in reality. I once asked you to sell all you have and give to the poor and follow me. This is what I meant. If you have no investment in anything in this world, you can teach the poor where their treasure is. The poor are merely those who have invested wrongly, and they are poor indeed. Because they are in need, it is given you to help them, since you are among them. Consider how perfectly your lesson would be learned if you were unwilling to share their poverty. For poverty is lack, and there is but one lack, since there is but one need. Suppose a brother insists on having you do something you think you do not want to do. His very insistence should tell you that he believes salvation lies in it. If you insist on refusing and experience a quick response of opposition, you are believing that your salvation lies in not doing it. You then are making the same mistake he is, and are making his error real to both of you. Insistence means investment, and what you invest in is always related to your notion of salvation. The question is always twofold. First, what is to be saved? And second, how can it be saved? Whenever you become angry with a brother for whatever reason, you are believing that the ego is to be saved and to be saved by attack. If he attacks, you are agreeing with this belief. And if you attack, you are reinforcing it. Remember that those who attack are poor. Their poverty asks for gifts, not for further impoverishment. You who could help them are surely acting destructively if you accept their poverty as yours. If you had not invested as they had, it would never occur to you to overlook their need. Recognize what does not matter, and if your brothers ask you for something, quote, outrageous, unquote, do it because it does not matter. Refuse, and your opposition establishes that it does matter to you. It is only you, therefore, who have made the request outrageous, and every request of a brother is for you. Why would you insist in denying him? For to do so is to deny yourself and impoverish both. He is asking for salvation as you are. Poverty is of the ego and never of God. No, quote, outrageous, unquote, requests can be made of one who recognizes what is valuable and wants to accept nothing else. Salvation is for the mind, and it is attained through peace. This is the only thing that can be saved and the only way to save it. Any response other than love arises from a confusion about the, quote, what, unquote, and the quote, how, unquote, of salvation, and this is the only answer. Never lose sight of this, and never allow yourself to believe, even for an instant, that there is another answer. For you will surely place yourself among the poor, who do not understand that they dwell in abundance and that salvation is come. To identify with the ego is to attack yourself and make yourself poor. That is why everyone who identifies with the ego feels deprived. What he experiences then is depression or anger, because what he did was to exchange self-love for self-hate, making him afraid of himself. He does not realize this. Even if he is fully aware of anxiety, he does not perceive its source as his own ego identification. And he always tries to handle it by making some sort of an insane, quote, arrangement, unquote, with the world. He always perceives this world as outside himself, for this is crucial to his adjustment. He does not realize that he makes this world, for there is no world outside of him. If only the loving thoughts of God's Son are the world's reality, the real world must be in his mind. His insane thoughts, too, must be in his mind, but an internal conflict of this magnitude he cannot tolerate. A split mind is endangered, and the recognition that it encompasses completely opposed thoughts within itself is intolerable. Therefore, the mind projects the split, not the reality. Everything you perceive as the outside world is merely your attempt to maintain your ego identification, for everyone believes that identification is salvation. Yet consider what has happened, for thoughts do have consequences to the thinker. You have become at odds with the world as you perceive it, because you think it is antagonistic to you. This is a necessary consequence of what you have done. You have projected outward what is antagonistic to what is inward, and therefore you would have to perceive it this way. That is why you must realize that your hatred is in your mind and not outside it before you can get rid of it, and why you must get rid of it before you can perceive the world as it really is. I said before that God so loved the world that he gave it to his only begotten Son. God does love the real world, and those who perceive its reality cannot see the world of death. For death is not of the real world, in which everything reflects the eternal. God gave you the real world in exchange for the one you made out of your split mind, and which is the symbol of death. For if you could really separate yourself from the mind of God, you would die. The world you perceive is a world of separation. Perhaps you are willing to accept even death to deny your Father. Yet he would not have it so, and so it is not so. You still cannot will against him, and that is why you have no control over the world you made. It is not a world of will because it is governed by the desire to be unlike God, and this desire is not will. The world you made is therefore totally chaotic, governed by arbitrary and senseless, quote, laws, unquote, and without meaning of any kind. For it is made out of what you do not want, projected from your mind because you are afraid of it. Yet this world is only in the mind of its maker, along with his real salvation. Do not believe it is outside of yourself, for only by recognizing where it is will you gain control over it. For you do have control over your mind, since the mind is the mechanism of decision. If you will recognize that all the attack you perceive is in your own mind and nowhere else, you will at last have placed its source, and where it begins, it must end. For in the same place also lies your salvation. The altar of God where Christ abideth is there. You have defiled the altar, but not the world. Yet Christ has placed the atonement on the altar for you. Bring your perceptions of the world to this altar, for it is the altar to truth. There you will see your vision changed, and there you will learn to see truly. From this place where God and his Son dwell in peace and where you are welcome, you will look out in peace and behold the world truly. Yet to find the place, you must relinquish your investment in the world as you project it, allowing the Holy Spirit to extend the real world to you from the altar of God. All right. I know, it's difficult, when you hear this, difficult to understand because there's so many terms that are changed from the simple understanding that we know of as, if you're an English speaker, even if you're a very learned English speaker, you may have difficulty understanding this. I know I would if I just heard that and I didn't actually see the words in front of me, and if I hadn't been studying the course for a while, that would sound like gobbledygook. And it does for many who are not aware of, who are not like serious course students. So that's that's where I come in to try to explain a little bit of this to you. And once again, I just want to say that Jesus is basically saying the same thing over and over again. That's the good news. And he's doing it in different ways. And he's also bringing in things that he said before and expanding on them. And again, it's like a symphony of ideas. And the one theme or one motif comes in, and then another motif follows, and then the earlier motif comes back again, and it's restated, and then it's expanded and embellished. So it's a little different the next time. There's an unfolding too to this, that there is a journey here that we're taking, and Jesus is slowly but surely unfolding the entire message right in front of us. So he starts with a quote really from the Gospels. I believe it's from Matthew. I once ask you to sell all you have and give to the poor and follow me. And he does say that, basically word for word in Matthew. Not exactly word for word, but basically, sell all your possessions, give to the poor, and follow me. This is what I meant. Now he's going to give the deeper meaning, because when we hear that, obviously most people think, oh, charity, Christian charity. You give away, you give to the poor. But actually, Jesus was pretty extreme there. Even even if you understand it in that way, he's saying, sell all you have, everything, and give to the poor, and then follow me. So give up all your possessions. This is what I meant, deeper meaning. If you have no investment in anything in this world, you can teach the poor where their treasure is. The poor are merely those who invested wrongly, and they are poor indeed. Now, the poor here is anyone who has an investment in the ego, which is just about all of us. We're all poor because we all have this sense of lack. That's poverty, right? This feeling of lack. What do we have a feeling of lack about? Well, we have a feeling of lack about this and about that and about this and about that and about all these things that we feel like we don't have, whether it's things that we want or relationships that we would like or more peace of mind or more people to listen to us or whatever it might be, more money, more status. And if we don't think that we have those thoughts, we're not completely honest with ourselves. We all do. We're all invested. Not everyone. Maybe there are some. I'm sure there are some who are relatively free of those, but just about everyone has some kind of ego wish or desire, right? That keeps us kind of not in complete peace of mind. And so we are poor. So Jesus is saying we are poor. So who is rich, though? The rich person for him, according to what he's saying here, is the one who does not make the original error real and does not see the world outside as a source of happiness or lasting joy. And the person who is doing that consistently, they are rich. They are not poor. And that person is the one who can help those who truly are poor and who don't even know that they're poor. Don't even realize it. And then he goes into this thing. This one of the famous lines in this section is, if your brother asks you to do something outrageous, do it because it does not matter. So what does that mean? If your brother asks you to do something outrageous, you mean your brother's going to ask you to jump off a cliff and then you're going to do it because your brother tells you to do it? What does that mean? So basically, I can read it. Let's just read it quickly and then we'll talk about it. Suppose a brother insists on having you do something you think you do not want to do. His very insistence should tell you that he believes salvation lies in it. If you insist on refusing and experience a quick response of opposition, you are believing that your salvation lies in not doing it. You then are making the same mistake he is and are making his error real to both of you. Okay, so really what this is getting at is whenever we are in, let's say we're talking to a friend and they say something that starts to upset us, and we start to get mad or upset, and we fire back, and we deny, try to oppose or attack them for what they're saying or what they're asking. So asking to do something outrageous might be as simple as asking you to take what they have to say without attacking them, right? Listen to what they have to say, even if what they're saying is outrageous, right? But don't attack back. And if you do, if you do get this feeling of, and you're mad or upset, then you are investing in the ego. It's due to your ego investment. And Jesus is saying you don't need to have that investment. You need only invest in reality. You'll need only invest in truth. And the ego, as you do that more and more, and as you demonstrate that to your brother and to all others, then the ego will dissolve. The ego will fade more and more into the background. You will become more and more step into your true self. And you will see the world more and more in that way as well. There will be less attack in your world. There will be less chaos and confusion as you do that work. It's a practice. Remember that those who attack are poor. This is in italics. Those who attack are poor. Now, this does not mean, we can take this deeper and say you have a friend who's addicted to something, right? They're addicted to, let's say, some kind of drug, alcohol or any kind of drug. And they want you to help them, and they want your support in their addiction. Now, there's two things here. First is your inner response, how you deal with that on an inward level, meaning that you let go of the judgment of them, you let go of the fear, the upset. That's one thing. And you show to them that it doesn't upset you. It doesn't make you, whatever they're asking doesn't upset you. And everything's cool. There's no, you don't love them any less. Now, that's one thing. But the other thing is, how do you deal with that situation? In the world of action, the world of practicality, you might actually not help them. You might not support them. You might choose not to support them, but you also might be firm in your peace and non-judgment towards them. So, and that depends on the situation. There's no one way to deal with any situation, or there's no one general rule for every situation. There's only the situation as it arises, whatever situation it may be. That's why the Course doesn't give any specific help with anything. This is all very general and abstract, because every situation is different. Every person is different. Recognize what does not matter. This is in italics too. Recognize what does not matter. That's the only thing that's in italics. And if your brothers ask you for something outrageous, quote unquote outrageous, do it because it does not matter. Refuse, and your opposition establishes that it does matter to you. It is only you, therefore, who have made the request outrageous, and every request of a brother is for you. Why would you insist in denying him? Now, this does not mean, again, this does not talking about on the level of action. This is on the level of thought, on how you feel about your brother and how you react in your mind and sometimes in your actions. Like, you may start to feel this bitterness, hatred, upset, outrage. You know, you may feel the outrage towards the outrageous thing, right? And that may show in how you deal with it. You may start to yell and scream and kick and moan or whatever it is. But there is like I'm saying, you may you want to get to the point where the ego is dissolved, where anything that anyone says or does to you does not faze you, right? And you can deal with the situation in the most loving and practical way, and reasonable, let's say reasonable way, based, coming from your heart, coming from the level of the Holy Spirit, coming from that non-judgmental place. And like I said, sometimes your action may be to say no, right? And sometimes it may be to say yes. To identify with the ego is to attack yourself and make yourself poor. So I'll say one more thing, which is, this is obvious, but every attack is attack on ourself. And Jesus later is telling us how our mind is split, and how any attack we see outside of ourselves, anything that disturbs us outwardly is inside of us. And so we have to turn it back on ourselves. Keep turning it back on ourselves and say, why am I not at peace? Why am I not able to accept the oneness and unity and the love of God? Why am I not, not without judgment, but just saying, this just shows me that I am not yet fully at peace if I'm getting upset at this. Now that, again, this is really, really difficult. It's not the easy, this is like nothing can upset you. That's what Jesus is saying. Nothing. There's nothing in this world that need upset you, right? This need not be. There's that section earlier. This need not be. This need not be. It's a very tall order. I'm going to end here because this video is going to get too long. We'll say more next time. Thank you for listening. See you soon.